Hey everyone, it is Bridgie from Bougie Texas Barbecue, and today we're doing something a little out of the ordinary. We are going to make brisket burnt ends in the Oklahoma Joe's Rambler. So I'm actually going to apply the snake method, and the reason I'm doing this is because I know the Rambler is not as insulated as my offset, but if I can at least get the first 4 to 5 hours without opening the lid, the snake method is probably going to be my best bet to achieve that. Normally the longest time I've gotten away with not opening the lid on the Rambler was about roughly 2 hours. Now I'm going to lower the grate so I can start doing the double stack. I don't want them to tip over. Now I know what you're thinking, why the heck would you even attempt brisket burnt ends or even the snake method in the Rambler? Well, I have a cold front coming in Texas right now, and it's a weak cold front, but most likely we're gonna get some rain. And I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I crave barbecue comfort food even more when it rains. But I also don't want to be electrocuted. So if you're watching this video, I pulled it off. But anyways, so you want to kind of take your time when you do the snake method. It's basically like stacking dominoes, and once you tip one domino, aka our fire, it's just going to keep going all the way around to the end. I'm using wood chips versus wood chunks because I don't want it to get too hot in the Rambler, and it being the first time I'm even attempting this, I felt like wood chips are the safest bet. My wood chip profile today is going to be a combination of post oak and cherry wood chips. Now I'm adding a water pan, and it's going to be directly under my brisket point. 1, hopefully deflects some of the heat, and 2, to keep moisture in. So now I'm just going to start my fire. Now this part, along with any other smoke, is the most crucial part, making sure our coals get lit to run a successful snake method. Now I'm just going to add my grate where my brisket's going to go. I'm most likely going to add the other one later on, but I just want to have easy access if I need to add more water or more fuel. Okay, so now we're just going to let our fire breathe. And once your coals are officially lit, you can go ahead and position your brisket point. I just did a very basic seasoning, kosher salt, and some coarse black pepper. Now yes, I could have easily just cubed these up and threw them in there, but I just decided to cook the whole point. Okay, so now once you're comfortable where your brisket is positioned, you can just basically close it up and let it smoke for 4 hours. But this didn't go exactly as planned for me. About 2 hours in, we got heavy rain, so I acted quickly. I quickly heated up some charcoal and threw it in so I wouldn't lose too much heat. And I know we've all been there when rain comes out of nowhere. Depending on where you live, just throwing in some more heat usually regulates the temp. I kept the lid about 3/4 open so no water would get on the brisket or the fire. And I saved the day. The Rambler stayed at 250 degrees the remainder of the time. This little portable smoker went beyond my expectations. The rain has finally passed, and now we can check on our brisket. And I was so happy when I opened the lid because I can see that beautiful mahogany bark starting to form. And my snake method worked. It lasted 4 hours. But now it's time to refuel the more traditional way. I'm also going to add some more wood chips, let the fire burn clean, and then I'm going to close it up. We're going to continue cooking for another 2 hours. Now we are officially 6 hours in. And let's just take a moment to admire the bark that's forming on this portable smoker. My mind is blown. Well, it's time to refuel again. But because we're going to be making brisket burnt ends, I want to get some of that brisket au jus. Apologies if I said that incorrectly. So we are going to get a disposable pan, and we are going to also finish up the cook this way. So go ahead and place it inside a disposable pan. Careful not to burn your hands. I'm also going to add the other grate, you'll see why later. Now this next step is 100% optional, but I'm actually going to add a little bit of Dr. Pepper. It's going to help create moisture, but it's mainly just to combine the flavors. We're not going to add too much, we just want to make sure the whole bottom is covered. Now just cover tightly with foil, and we're basically just going to cook it until it's probe tender. In order for the Rambler to close properly, we are going to have to position this horizontally. This is also the time if you want to maybe add some barbecue sides to go ahead and add them on there with the little space that's left. I'm going to add some baked potatoes. I'm assuming this brisket point's only going to need an hour more, but we're going to probe every 30 minutes. Alright guys, we're almost done. Once it's probe tender, go ahead and pull it off and allow it to rest for about 30 minutes. I wouldn't recommend cutting the brisket if it's scorching hot, but if you're cutting it when it's too cold, you're basically reheating brisket, so I don't recommend that either. In my opinion, 30 to 45 minutes is probably going to be your best bet, but this is your brisket journey. So whatever time you want to cut, go ahead and cut it. And as soon as I picked that brisket up, I was so surprised on how it felt. This little brisket point felt the same as if it was on my traditional smoker. Burnt ends are usually cut into 1-inch cubes. So we're going to go ahead and cut them into 1-inch cubes. Then we're going to toss them back in the au jus with a little bit of more Dr. Pepper. And you can use your favorite barbecue sauce or make some barbecue sauce and go ahead and toss them in there. A little test squeeze before I throw them into the au jus. And you know what, guys? For it being covered in foil, the bark is still pretty firm. It almost feels like if it was wrapped in butcher paper. I tell you, brisket surprises me every time. Alright, make sure you wrap it nice and tight, and it's going to go back onto the smoker for another 30 minutes or until the sauce turns sticky. Be careful not to overcook. I also recommend letting them rest for an additional 30 minutes before doing a little test squeeze. And I couldn't believe my eyes when I opened them. They literally came out like meat candy. Quick close-up. Such a beautiful mahogany color. And the bark is still intact. Nice little smoke ring, and now it's time for the test squeeze. I applied barely any pressure and it came apart in my hand. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. Now it's just the hard part. Are you going to enjoy them straight? Or are you going to switch it up and make some brisket burnt ends stuffed potatoes? Till next time, guys, enjoy.